He's at the helm of a conglomerate that has been around for 7 decades and with a presence in 4 continents. The company's diverse interests include retail, hotels, food, and property development. I'm here with Andrew Khoo, Chairman and CEO of the MUI Group. You taking over as well, the pressure of the second generation, right?
There was never an expectation that I would take over. His position was the best and the right person should take over. Doesn't need to be family. So there was never that expectation that I would necessarily take over. He made sure I was ready and prepared. Then when the time came, I guess he decided that I was the right person. I was ready to take on the challenge.
Welcome to Live Confessions Season 3 with me, Frida Liu. This episode comes to you in collaboration with Syok and MUI Group. He's at the helm of a conglomerate that has been around for 7 decades and with a presence in 4 continents. The company's diverse interests include retail, hotels, food, and property development. I'm here with Andrew Khoo, Chairman and CEO of the MUI Group. He has a background in law and business, having been educated in Canada, the US, and Cambridge in the UK. So let's hear from the man. Very nice meeting you, Andrew.
Nice meeting you as well, Frida.
Right, with this show, doing my research on you, it's been LinkedIn, right? So in one of your posts, I have to say, it's about adding value in unexpected places. There was a little statement that you had there, right? And how are you doing that with your 64-year-old conglomerate?
I think to me, it's all about finding inspiration in anything you do. And sometimes it's in unexpected places. So to me, it's always trying to find new ideas, innovation, keeping things fresh.
Right.
So I just came back from London and I was very inspired because I went to this cafe and I've never seen this before. But basically, it's a merger of a money changer, so foreign exchange they call it, and a cafe. And it's hugely successful. So you have celebrities going in there. So on the high street, it's a 2-generation business, money changer. They wanted to change things up and they wanted to create a new lifestyle concept and bring in more business. And they did it with a fantastic cafe. So we want to take some of these ideas and bring it into our businesses. So our hotel team in London, they are also inspired by looking at that and seeing how we can ideate and bring some of those concepts into our business.
Right. And you think about it, it's a very old business. We go in, we change our money, but why not, right? And that's an opportunity to be personal as well. Interesting. Okay, now you also mentioned championing new business ideas by challenging the norm. And I guess you shared that story, right? Maybe a little bit of history. You took over 7 years ago, right? And what have you, put into the organization the last 7 years?
I took over in 2018. So from my father, who was the previous chairman and CEO. But, our business, as you mentioned, has been around for like 7 decades. So we were incorporated in 1960, and then we were listed in 1971. Oh. And we've gone through a number of different phases. And in our heyday, which is in the 80s and 90s, we grew very fast. And we expanded into many, many different sectors. So when I took over, I had to take a step back and to see where should we take this business going forwards, because we want to be around for the next 7 decades as well. So obviously I have a huge responsibility to make sure that I can steer the business in the right direction. So I think largely I felt that we have to be more focused. We have to rationalize the group and play on our strengths. Because in this day and age, it's all about talent, and we have to have the right people to be able to do and execute. We can have wonderful visions and plans, but you have to have the people to execute. So largely, I think I've been able to rationalize the group. We have sold off one of our listed companies, and we are going to focus on our core strengths. So that's what I'm trying to bring to the table.
Okay, tell me about the strengths. When you say the core strengths of the organization, what would those be?
The values since day one of our organization has been being strong, being efficient, being trustworthy. And these are the values that to this day I'm trying to instill within our team. So I think the key is finding the right people that that can share those values, and there's going to be a big focus on putting together the right type of teams, the right type of culture,
Right.
and then from there we can stay focused. And if we do that, we can get to our destination and achieve our objectives and goals.
Okay. I also want to talk about a little bit about culture, right? And what is the culture now? Has it changed, or how are you looking at culture? I suppose
It's changed. Absolutely, it's changed because the world
has
has
changed.
changed. Even pre-COVID, post-COVID, everything is changing at speed, and it's changed people's perceptions, people's outlook, and also the way people work.
Right.
Even the working styles, expectations have all changed. So what we need to do is to be able to reach out to today's workforce. And what's important to people, to us, is that it has to be meaningful. Whatever we do has to be meaningful, right? People are always trying to find meaning in life. So that's why we have spent a lot of time in the last 12 to 18 months focusing on building the right teams and the right culture. So we've worked with external parties, and we bring in trainers and we bring in speakers. We've worked very closely with Chick-fil-A, for example. It's an organization from the US that I admire very much in terms of how they've built the entire business, not on selling chicken, but it's a people business. So we bring teams in from the US to speak to our teams so that our teams can be inspired.
Right.
And so we are on this journey of building the right culture.
Okay, I want to talk about you taking over as well. The pressure of the second generation, right? And then large organization of that, right? What was, I guess, going through your head when you decided, when you took on the role, and trying to stay true to what the MUI group is, but also your own stamp, right, to things. What was going through your head?
You see, to me, I was prepared for this role by my father, but it was never given to me.
Okay.
There was never an expectation that I would take over, which is why I did join the business earlier on. Then I did leave the business, and I went and did my own things, my own interests and my own pursuits. And then in 2017, he called me back to take over from him because he wanted to walk away and he wanted to retire. So, but during that whole period of time leading up to that, his position was, it's always the best and the right person should take over. Doesn't need to be family per se. So there was never that expectation that I would necessarily take over. But I was prepared for the role. So I think he covered his bases. He made sure I was ready and prepared. Then when the time came, I guess he decided that I was the right person. So with that in mind, it wasn't a surprise to me that I was going to take over, but I didn't expect it as well because I was already doing my own, I had my own career. So, but to me, it's all about mindset once again, and I was ready to take on the challenge.
Okay. So you wanted to?
I think, I have a very early memory, and this is something that my mom and parents have reminded me about when I was like maybe 6 or 7. I would come into his office and sit on his big chair, and I said, one day, this will be mine. This is what I think I distinctly remembered that I did do something like that. So I think at a young age, I aspired maybe. I was open and ready to this kind of role and responsibility. So, but to me, it's not do I want to do it, but I think it's also a responsibility, right? As a second generation, as you say, it is a responsibility for me to make sure that I can put this company in the right frame of mind and in the right position to be successful going forwards.
What are some of the lessons from your father?
I've learned many lessons from him, and over the years, he's given me a lot of advice. But the one thing that he keeps emphasizing, and it's not just to me, I've heard him say to his senior people, the one thing that really stands out to me, he always says, and it's, of course, he comes from a more traditional and more of an old school mindset. But the one thing he would always emphasize is there is no substitute for hard work. And to him, it's all about hard work. And he demonstrated that day in, day out. So that stood out in my mind, and I've taken that on board. And that's something that is definitely a key factor to success for any of us.
Right. Okay. You also, I know we talked about values already, right? And want to talk about customers, right? And employees, right? And they are complex. They have changed. They have evolved. The world has changed, as you are saying. How are you getting them aligned with their values and vice versa, right? What is your thought process and some of your strategies? So it's two questions, customers and employees. What is the thinking?
You can look at it both ways. Ultimately, the answer is you have to understand them, right? So know your personnel, know your customers, know your people. But then again, that's one. The flip side is they're also one and the same. Okay, so if you look at our purpose statement, we've come out with a purpose statement for our organization. And the purpose statement, so we've done away with missions, values, and so forth, just come up with a purpose statement. Because it's about what is our purpose in life? What is the purpose of the organization to be here in Malaysia? So our purpose statement is to be a leader in driving innovation and sustainable growth to deliver a positive impact to all our stakeholders. So back to your question, it's about stakeholders.
Right.
So our customers, employees, they're all stakeholders. We're all in the same boat together. So once again, is how do we know what is important to them?
Right.
And that is a lifelong journey and pursuit. But we got to be in touch with what's happening on the ground, and so that we really, really know what's important to them. So it's not about what we want to do per se, what we want to sell. It's what do our customers want.
Right.
So that's the way we look at things.
Right, and a positive impact, right? So that's inculcated into your purpose statement.
Yep.
I want to go into your various businesses, right? One of which is retail, and Metro Jaya. Metro Jaya celebrates its 50th anniversary this year. Okay, where do you see retail heading? And I'm sure this is a very different Metro Jaya from the one we know 50 years ago.
It's a very challenging time for retail, but it's also a very interesting time for retail.
Right.
And it's very fragmented today, and many segments, the demographic has segmented heavily, and people are looking for different things. And so the way we look at retail today is that it has to be an activation of experiences. It's not just about putting things on the shop floor and then it sells. It's not necessarily about that. So it's about how do we activate that community, right? How can we resonate with them? Because sometimes, especially the younger generation, they buy with a purpose. That statement again, purpose, right? It has to be meaningful. What is this company? What does this product stand for? And what's the environmental impact? Sustainability features and things like that. So what we do is we have to take a holistic view when we launch new brands. And recently we launched a new brand called Indie Batik. And the purpose of that is because we want to celebrate everything that's Malaysian. There's a big drive from the government to push local, and batik is, of course, we have to celebrate that. And we've seen some of the other brands in the market, and it's all about becoming more contemporary, more modern, but more lifestyle driven. So we've launched this brand called Indie Batik, which you can find in Metro Jaya, or we have also two standalone shops. And it's been, the feedback and the response has been very good. But it's about coming up with these brands that really stand for something. And so from the ground up, we looked at a brand that sources locally. We support local artisans, and we come up with this whole design and aesthetic around that.
Okay, so I haven't been in yet, but take me through that journey. When someone walks into a Metro Jaya now, what is their experience? What's the experience you hope that people will get walking in?
That it's not just about a retail shop. It's not just about a department store. In fact, it's a complete experience. If you come into our Metro Jaya today in Mid Valley, immediately to the left, you will see our brand that we've invested into, which is Benjamin Barker. So that's the suit I'm wearing. Then on towards the right, you'll see Cape Cod, which is an athleisure brand. And you will see a pickleball court that we have just put there, right? So it's a pickleball court against the wall where people can play. And the reason why we're doing that is because we've come up with an interesting collaboration, athleisure, pickleball, racquetball collection, which has our Cape Cod apparels.
Right.
We're bringing in a shoe brand that's quite famous, streetwear, sports shoe brand. And we're also collaborating with Christy Ng for her new racket bag collection. So you see, it's all about lifestyle.
Right. Okay. All right. So I haven't picked up pickleball as well. So that could be a reason to go into Metro Jaya and pick up my pickleball stuff.
And then to complete the whole experience, we also have a cafe. So you see, so it's not just about shopping. You walk through our entire space. You'll see we have F&B, we have a cafe, we have a pickleball court, sports, and it's not just about selling clothes.
Right. Okay. Now, your business, that's just retail. So your businesses are very diverse, right? From retail, F&B to property development with very different dynamics, right? Talk about the growth areas that you see in all these various verticals that you're in.
Okay. Recently, we acquired 100% of A&W. So that's another brand that holds a lot of history in Malaysia. And we have a lot of exciting plans to grow this business. So today, we already have 100 outlets. And the plan is to grow 10 to 15 a year. Right. Open a lot more drive-through, R&R, and selected locations all across Malaysia. So eventually, we can get to 200-300 outlets, no problem.
Right.
So that's the growth plan for A&W. Right. So we're quite excited about that. In terms of our property division, we recently made some exciting announcements. Our industrial park. So we've had this township, which is 2,000 acres in Bandar Spring Hill, which is south of Seremban. So it's been very successful. We work with our partners, which is UCSI. So we have a hospital there. We have our residential component. And recently, we have just launched an industrial park. So now we're into phase 2 of our industrial park. And we recently sold a piece of land to a large China medical devices manufacturer. So they are bringing their first factory outside of China into Malaysia. And so we see a huge take-up rate there and a lot of interest in building out this industrial component. So that's the property segment. And then with regards to our hotels, because we've been in hotels since the 70s. In fact, my father built the first Holiday Inn here in Malaysia. And since then, we have had hotels in Malaysia, Singapore, Australia, the US, UK. So we've been in the business for a long time. And what we've done recently is we are focusing a lot more on launching a new brand called Immersive Hotels, plus a new hotel management company. So leveraging on collective experience of over 100 years, if you look at all our management personnel, we want to launch this new hotel management company called Immersive Hospitality. And the reason for doing that is so that we can leverage on our own experiences and manage hotels for other people as well.
I see. So so your businesses are all over 4 continents, several countries. What's exciting you overseas? Is it more the hospitality or other aspects as well?
Definitely hospitality. I just came back from London. So we're just completed a mock-up room for our Hyde Park Hotel. That will be converted into a Marriott Tribute next year. And once again, there'll be a lot of lifestyle elements. It's going to have a more of a boutique feel.
Right.
And so we're very excited about that because it's on Hyde Park and it's very close to Paddington Station. It's perfectly located. It's a large city, and we feel that we can really drive average room rates, occupancy, all those things. So that's one. That's the hotel side. And we also launched our new brand, Immersive Hotels, which is in Burnham Beaches, which is very close to Windsor Castle and Heathrow.
Right.
That one, soft launch last week.
Right.
So our hotels brands are getting a refresh.
Right.
We're rebranding our chain and our new hotels, and we're also launching that new hotel management company.
Okay. You're busy enough in all these areas. I'm just wondering, are there some new areas that you're looking at, or these four verticals is enough to keep you busy? But
Well, I always like to stay focused. So we have to stay within our lane with regards to verticals. But what we've also done is we've invested into a venture fund. So we are in the venture fund space and the venture debt space. And so it's a fund that's out of Singapore, licensed. It's called Wolfpack. And the reason why we do that is then we get a close-up view of new businesses coming in, new startups. And, we get a lot of deal flow that way. So that keeps things fresh. It gives us a chance to ideate and see what's happening, all the new emerging trends, the new technology, new businesses. And then from there as well, we can see whether we can work collaboratively and strategically.
talking about your venture capital company, Wolfpack, very interesting. What are some of the interesting investments or JVs that you've done?
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, Wolfpack Investments it's a fund set up out of Singapore, and they're in the process of now raising their fund 2, which will be completed this year, and then will be ready to deploy in 2025. So it's going to be a very exciting year. There's going to be funds coming in from Southeast Asia, but the main focus of this fund will be regional.
Okay.
So Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, those areas. But right now, within the portfolio of this company, we already see some interesting things. For example, they've invested into Maison 21G, which is
Yes.
which is in Singapore. You can see it in MBS and so forth. It's bespoke perfumes, fragrances. So that's one. Plus, also we have also done some direct investments.
Okay.
We've invested into things like Senses & Co., which is a business that does subscription fragrances,
Yes.
right? And so we like to support young founders
Right.
and businesses that we feel that have potential.
Right.
And once they grow to a certain size, the question then is, as part of that journey, can we then leverage on our corporate structure?
Right.
So then becomes a bit of a plug and play into our infrastructure. So that's why we see that, every step of the way in this journey, how can we add value? It's about adding value. So when we invest into these startups, they have to take it to a certain stage. At that point in time, are they ready to be a bit more corporate, and then faster growth into that platform? Then that's where we come into play.
A little bit about your education. You've been educated in Canada, the US, and also in the UK, right? And I guess what would be some of the things that, having been educated in various countries, right? What were some of the learnings that beyond the education?
I think that's the key thing. It's all beyond education anyways.
Right.
Education only just gives you a basic ground level kind of platform, but the real learnings is after that.
Okay.
And I think education is really more about prepping your mindset. I think it's all about having the right mindset, because you need to have an open mindset about learning. It's lifelong learning. And so a lot of things that I've learned is not through the education, but it's post.
Right.
But I think the opportunity that I have been afforded to be in multiple countries and learning from multiple countries is just, I have that, I guess I've been given that open mindset. I go in with more of an open mindset because I've tried to pick the best of all the different countries that I've been living, studying, and working in.
And looking at possibilities, I guess, right? So as I was saying, I was looking at LinkedIn right right at the bottom when you were at the University of Victoria. You were a news and sports announcer, right? Tell me about that. And is that an unfulfilled dream of sorts, or is this all coming to place now?
It just sounded it sounded interesting at the time. Back then I'm into sports.
Yeah.
So I played hockey, ice hockey, and played tennis, and played all the different sports. So and this role, it was just a part-time kind of thing. It just sounded interesting. So I just applied for it and got it. And but I really do admire people who are in that role. Whether you're a radio, or you're a DJ, and so forth. It's I don't see myself as that, but I just did it as a part-time, a summer kind of job.
Unless you're Oprah Winfrey, you don't make enough money. Okay. What keeps Andrew Khoo awake at night?
Well, I think it's the mental responsibility, as I mentioned earlier. I have been given this business, and I have to make sure that I can put it in the right place, and to nurture it and care for it and put it and set the right direction for the future. So I think there's a lot of thoughts and there's a lot of critical thinking that goes into that to make sure that, am I doing the right thing, and am I charting the right course? Am I providing the right leadership? So that's what's on my mind a lot.
Okay, and how do you de-stress? How do you, this whole thing about mindfulness and all that, but how do you, decompress?
Well, I think you have to segregate. And luckily for me, I'm able to compartmentalize in a way. For my role, as you mentioned, I have multiple things within my portfolio, right? I wear multiple hats. But so you need to be able to compartmentalize and leave the work when you have to.
Right.
And one of the things I do to de-stress is I do a lot of sports.
Right.
I still play tennis, football, go to the gym, things like that. Try to just stay active.
Right. Okay. So, second generation, next generation, what's the legacy and values you want to impart to your children?
I think children, even though you may not articulate or say a lot, but they're always watching as well. That's what I've noticed.
Yeah.
And so just by your own actions,
Right.
you don't even need to say it per se.
Right.
Sometimes there's a time and place for everything.
Yeah.
You can have conversations, but sometimes it's just by leading, by your actions, they pick up a lot from that.
Right.
So at the end of the day, when I walk away from everything, the body of work
Right.
will speak for itself.
Right.
And that's what I hope they will be able to look up to.
Right. It's not what you say, it's what you do, right? Sometimes.
Yep.
Is there anything else that I haven't brought up that you'd like to share with us?
I guess, there's a lot of things that we still need to do. The next couple of years is going to be exciting. I think not just for us as an organization and for our people, but even for Malaysia.
Right.
I see a lot of opportunity, and we just have to seize that opportunity, I think. So the next few years is going to be very, very interesting and exciting.
So you would have met a lot of entrepreneurs, be it young, be it, whatever, right? What's typical, and, when you meet them, what would your advice be to them? Or people who are looking at starting their own businesses, right? What would be your advice to them?
It's never easy, especially when you're young. And we've seen it. There's a lot of successes, but there's a lot of failure as well.
Right.
And I think the important thing is being resilient. If there's a setback or you're knocked down, you have to have the ability to get up and try again. And if you have that ability, you will be able to rise from that occasion. So I think that's going to be key for any young entrepreneur or someone starting up.
Right. And I have to ask this question as well. You're looking back in your life, right? What would you, any regrets, right? What would you have told your 21-year-old self?
I thought we discussed this earlier. No regrets.
No regrets.
No advice. No, seriously. I mean, no, honestly, I don't like to look backwards.
Yeah.
I prefer to look forwards. So really, I mean, of course, there's things you could do differently, but I don't look at it as do I regret.
Right.
And
With lessons.
yeah, lessons. I mean, it's all about time, right? So it is about time. How efficiently are you using your time? So I think that's sometimes when you're younger, you don't always value the time. But as you get older, time is of the essence. Then you really do value your time. And where do you allocate that time?
All right. Well, thank you for, tuning in with us on Live Confessions Season 3. And thank you, Andrew, for being with us. And this episode was made possible by Syok and MUI Group.